if there be aught beyond them of all such lands as are. I will go down on my knees in yon dark cave and search with my hands amid the dust, if so I may find my yesterday again and certain hours that are gone." And the King pointed to his piles of gold that stood where elephants were met together, and beyond them to the scornful camels, and Kai answered: "The gods have offered me the gleaming worlds and all as far as the rim, and whatever lies beyond it as far as the gods may see, and thou comest to me with elephants and camels." Then said the King: "Across the orchards of my home there hath passed 1 hour whereof thou knowest well, and I pray to thee, who wilt take no gifts borne upon elephants or camels, to give me of thy mercy 1 second back, 1 grain of dust that clings to that hour in the heap that lies within thy cave." And at the word mercy Kai laughed, and the King turned his armies to the east. Therefore the armies returned to Averon, and the heralds before them cried: "Here cometh Khanazar, King of Averon and of the mountains, and lord, if there be aught beyond those mountains, of all such lands as are." And the King said to them: "Say rather that here comes one greatly wearied, who, having accomplished nought, returneth from a quest forlorn." So the King came again to Averon. But it is told how there came into Ilaun one evening as the sun was setting a harper with a golden harp desiring audience of the King. And it is told how men led him to Khanazar, who sat frowning alone upon his throne, to whom said the harper: "I have a golden harp, and to its strings have clung like dust some seconds out of the forgotten hours and little happenings of the days that were." And Khanazar looked up, and the harper touched the strings, and the old forgotten things were stirring again, and there arose a sound of songs that had passed away and long since voices. Then when the harper saw that Khanazar looked not angrily upon him, his fingers tramped over the chords as the gods tramp down the sky, and out of the golden harp arose a haze of memories, and the King, leaning forward and staring before him, saw in the haze no more his palace walls, but saw a valley with a stream that wandered through it, and woods upon either hill, and an old castle standing lonely to the south. And the harper, seeing a strange look upon the face of Khanazar, said: "Is the King pleased who lords it over Averon and the mountains, and if there be aught beyond them, over all such lands as are?" And the King said: "Seeing that I am a child again in a valley to the south, how may I say what may be the will of the great King?" When the stars shone high over Ilaun, and still the King sat staring straight before him, all the courtiers drew away from the great palace, save one that stayed and kept one taper burning, and with them went the harper. And when the dawn came up through the silent archways into the marble palace, making the taper pale, the King still stared before him, and still he sat there when the stars shone again clearly and high above Ilaun. But on the second morning the King arose and sent for the harper and said to him: "I am King again, and thou that hast the skill to stay the hours and mayest bring again to men their forgotten days, thou shalt stand sentinel over my great tomorrow, and when I go forth to conquer Ziman Ho and make my armies mighty, thou shalt stand between that morrow and the cave of Kai, and haply some deed of mine and the battling of my armies shall cling to thy golden harp and not go down dishonoured into the cave. For my tomorrow, who with such resounding stride goes trampling through my dreams, is far too kingly to herd with forgotten days in the dust of things that were. But on some future day, when kings are dead and all their deeds forgotten, some harper of that time shall come, and from those golden strings awake those deeds that echo in my dreams, till my tomorrow shall stride forth among the lesser days and tell the years that Khanazar was a king." And answered the harper: "I will stand sentinel over thy great tomorrow, and when thou goest forth to conquer Ziman Ho and make thine armies mighty, I will stand between thy morrow and the cave of Kai. till thy deeds and the battling of thine armies shall cling to my golden harp and not go down dishonoured into the cave; so that when kings are dead and all their deeds forgotten, the harpers of the future time shall awake from these golden chords those deeds of thine. This will I do. Men of those days that be skilled upon the harp tell still of Khanazar, how that he was King of Averon and of the mountains, and claimed lordship of certain lands beyond, and how he went with armies against Ziman ho and fought great battles, and in the last gained victory and was slain. But Kai, as he waited with his claws to gather in the last days of Khanazar that they might loom enormous in his cave, still found them not, and only gathered in some meaner deeds and the days and hours of lesser men, and was vexed by the shadow of a harper that stood between him and the world. End of The Caves of Kai, from Time and the Gods, by Lord Dunsany.